I first played Psyvariar in an arcade just outside Tokyo. I didn't like it. It felt empty. I'd kill an enemy as soon as it appeared, then have to wait for what seemed like an eternity before another one showed up, and the graphics looked bare bones and dull. After dying, I picked up my stack of 100 yen coins and slid a couple of stools down to Mushihime-sama Futari. Fortunately, I forgot the name of the game I played that day, and when Psyvariar Delta was announced for Switch, I trusted in the hype and recommendations of the shmup community and ordered myself a copy. Only after loading it up and playing the first stage did I realise this was the same game I dismissed after a minute and a half a couple of years previously. Now obviously, having shelled out for a console version, I wasn't quite as willing to ditch the game after 90 seconds this time. And not only did I play for longer, I put some effort into finding out how the game works. And boy was I rewarded. See, my mistake had been to try and play Psyvariar like a normal shmup, kill enemies as quickly as possible, dodge bullets and get to the end of the stage. But Psyvariar is not a normal shmup. It's all about two interrelated things, chasing scores and buzzing bullets. Once you fix those two ideas into the forefront of your mind, you're going to find you have an incredibly addictive and infinitely replayable game on your hands. And in this edition for Nintendo Switch, the game has been wrapped up in a superb package with a ribbon on top. So before we look at what I was doing wrong all those years ago, let's take a quick look at Psyvariar's basic mechanics, because they are very simple. At your disposal you have a standard forward shot, a focus shot and a stack of bombs. Your focus shot is activated while shooting by either holding down the right trigger or by weaving quickly from side to side. Bombs are standard screen clearing affairs. You start with 3 and they do not replenish after losing a life, so use them sparingly. As you progress, you will find precisely 0 shot or shield pickups or anything like that. In other words, on the surface we have a set of mechanics that are about as basic as you can get. However, as already mentioned, there is a buzz or graze mechanic, and what makes Psyvariar stand out is the extent to which this idea of buzzing enemy bullets is given such a fundamentally central position in how you play. See, buzzing does a couple of things. Firstly, it gives you big score bonuses. The exact number here is the midway point between the total number of bullets buzzed in a stage and the highest number you chained without getting hit, multiplied by 1,000. As an easy example, if you buzzed 200 bullets with a highest chain of 100, that would work out to a bonus of 150,000. Secondly, buzzing bullets levels up your ship. You can see 2 lines either side of your screen that creep outwards as you buzz. When these reach the top and bottom of the screen, you'll hear a voice saying level up. This initiates a brief period of invulnerability during which you can scoot your way out of any overly intense corners you may have backed yourself into. Importantly, you can still buzz bullets while in this state, giving you the opportunity to remain invincible for longer periods. At different points in the game, the speed at which your gauge fills changes, with boss fights seeing a steep drop in how quickly you can trigger your invincibility. These levels you rise through, by the way, aren't mere numbers either. As you level up, your standard shot will change, giving you a wider spread or adding horizontal directions. And even your ship itself will undergo visual transformations. Your level at stage end also dictates your options regarding where to go next, with a higher level opening up extra, more difficult stages in a kind of branching paths style. In other words, if you want to fully experience the game, you need enemy bullets to buzz. A screen filled with bullets comes to seem inviting, an opportunity, whereas an empty screen, far from giving you a little breather, can actually make you anxious as you worry about wasting time not buzzing and leveling up. For this reason, killing enemies quickly and staying safe is most certainly not the best strategy. Best way to illustrate this is the first stage. If you simply take out the enemies as soon as they appear, you'll generate no bullets for you to buzz. You'll finish the stage easily, but with a low level, few points and restricted options for where to go next. Allow the enemies time to drift into position and unload their barrages, however, and not only are you racking up the points, you're creating challenge for yourself, and what was once a dull, empty expanse of screen becomes alive with vibrant colours as bullets spread out in beautiful patterns. Of course, you do still want to take down these enemies, but deciding exactly when to do so requires some delicate thinking, as you trade off a desire for maximum buzz against what volume of bullets you consider will take you beyond the limit of what you can handle. This applies to stage selection too, The unlockable stages are always harder than the standard ones, which might not seem like much of a reward until you consider how many more of those wonderful bullets you're going to be able to exploit by upping the difficulty. Psyvariar is remarkable for being maybe the only shmup I know of that induces in its players a kind of Stockholm Syndrome-esque love of enemy bullets. Add to this the rumble effect that accompanies the buzzing, and you have an immensely satisfying mechanic at the heart of the game. As you progress, patterns, especially those fired by bosses, will quickly leave you in no doubt that you are playing a full-on bullet hell, and their intensity and rhythms create scenes of hypnotic beauty that fully expose my initial assessment of the game's visuals as being dull for the laughable misjudgment it always was. And on the topic of visuals, this console release comes with 3 different versions of the game. Medium Unit looks like the original arcade release, and while the more intense bullet spreads do look cool, some of its design may still appear slightly insipid to more modern sensibilities. The other 2 modes, however, Revision and Delta, are not just rearrangements but visual overhauls, and while the backgrounds haven't suddenly become Renaissance frescoes, they are an improvement. All modes have a lot of information around the game screen. Some of it's useful. I could see people using the close-up view of the ship, for example, but to be honest, I found most of it to be clutter and rarely had time to check any of it while playing. When choosing which version to play, you can also choose which version of the soundtrack to listen to, as well as select from 2 different ships. A third ship in the shape of the mech Blanche is available through a download code and plays vastly differently with an unfixed position shot and a replenishable shield. This extra ship, while adding some variety, doesn't seem very well suited to the gameplay here, and can be seen more as a curiosity rather than a serious extra. On top of all these variations of the main game, there are multiple options for how to play. I've spent most of my time in the score attack mode, where 3 lives are all you get and your score is recorded on online leaderboards, separated by both mode and ship type. The other mode of note is the replay mode, in which you select a stage then watch someone else's run before being handed the reins yourself. Where these runs come from I'm not completely sure. I'd assumed they were perfect runs, but I tried one in a later stage in which the player ship didn't even move, and simply drifted into enemies dying in under a minute. There are also a wealth of customizable options, from the standard, like setting the difficulty, the number of lives and bombs you have, to more unusual ones like choosing to display the buzz radius of bullets. And of course, for all of you watching this with your flip grip in hand, yes, there is full Tate mode support, and this is one that really benefits from it, with that expanded screen size really helping you out when the patterns are at their densest. I also prefer the way the invincibility gauge is displayed in Tate mode, with the indicator bars being more clearly visible in your peripheral vision. Psyvariar has been out for a while now in Japan, and I believe the Western release should be finding its way into people's hands very soon. That Western release has been through something of a troubled journey, but everything looks sorted now, and I can promise those of you who have been waiting, you're not going to be disappointed. Psyvariar makes a bold decision by putting buzzing front and centre of its whole premise, and the unapologetic and relentless way it dedicates itself to that mechanic means that the developers had to implement it perfectly if the game was to be a success. And they did. No shmup I've ever played has used grazing either so much or so well. Both the action of buzzing bullets itself, as well as the tactical considerations around how and how long to do so, are immensely satisfying, and the game is a score chaser's dream. The background visuals may not be anything to write home about, but the bullet patterns are the type you see behind your eyelids when you lean back and dream of the Danmaku. This package on Switch does a great job of bringing the game and its alternate versions to consoles, and I'm happy to recommend it to anyone with a score of 9 out of 10. As ever, whether you've played the Japanese release already or are waiting on the Western release dropping through your door, do let us know what your thoughts are on this one, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Cheers.